The 1970s were a golden era of velvet voices, smoky clubs, and records spinning late into the night. But behind the music we loved were lives marked by struggle, heartbreak, and pain the spotlight never healed. Some of these artists burned bright and disappeared too soon. Today, we remember 15 forgotten R&B souls whose stories still echo in the music. Number 15, Linda Jones.
And you know, every day cannot be Sunday. Every smile is not a smile of happiness.
The voice that could break glass and hearts. Linda Jones was born in Newark, New Jersey, and by her teens, she was already turning heads with a voice that didn't just soar, it trembled with emotion. In 1967, she broke into the charts with Hypnotized, a slow pleading ballad that felt like praying with your eyes closed. Her vocals could slip from silk to fire in a single breath, the kind of delivery that made audiences stop whatever they were doing and feel something. But Linda lived with a quiet enemy, diabetes, poorly understood and rarely accommodated in the music world at that time. She often performed through exhaustion and pain. Collapsing backstage more than once. Her mother traveled with her just to revive her after sets. In 1972, between shows in Harlem, Linda slipped into a diabetic coma and never woke again. She was only 27, gone in the same tragic age group as Hendricks, Joplin, and Morrison. Yet, unlike them, her name faded from mainstream memory. Listen to her recordings today, and you can still feel the church pewwood beneath your palms, the street lights of Newark flickering through summer haze, the trembling hope of a woman who gave everything she had every single night. If that entry had you holding your breath, the next story takes us even deeper into the shadows of the spotlight. Number 14, Donny Hathaway, the genius the world wasn't ready to save Donny.
I'm gonna stop you from saying goodbye.
Hathaway wasn't just a singer, he was a composer of emotion. Born in Chicago and raised in St. Louis, he had that rare kind of musical brilliance that felt almost divine.
Take your soul if you let them have it.
By the time he hit the early 1970s, he was arranging, producing, orchestrating, and singing some of the most soul-stirring music the era ever heard. A Song for You, Someday We'll All Be Free. His duets with Roberta Flack, pure lightning in slow motion, but genius can be heavy.
Misty, holding your hand.
Donny battled paranoid schizophrenia, a condition few understood then and that the industry certainly wasn't built to support. The voices he sang with were rivaled by the voices in his head, whispers that grew louder as fame crept in. Recording sessions would halt. He'd become convinced someone was trying to control him. Medication helped, but also dimmed that brilliant creative fire he lived to share. In January 1979, Donny was found outside the 15th floor window of the Essex House Hotel in New York.
Hey, don't you let them.
The official ruling, suicide. But fans, friends, and fellow musicians have debated that day for decades. What remains is grief and gratitude. Listen to him now, and it feels like someone placing a warm hand on your shoulder from another time. He sang like he was holding on for all of us. If Donny's story was brilliance veiled in shadow, this next artist reminds us how explosive fame can be when everything happens too fast, and support never comes. Number 13, Baby Huey, James Ramey.
People all around me, and they're all in fear.
The giant with a voice full of hurt. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Chicago was on fire with new sounds, funk being born from the bones of soul. And Baby Huey stood right at the edge of something groundbreaking.
Rank is okay.
Ramey was a big man with an even bigger voice, often performing shirtless, sweat-covered, roaring through songs like they were exorcisms. His band, the Babysitters, electrified tiny clubs on the South Side. When Curtis Mayfield himself took notice, people thought Huey was destined for something legendary, but fame didn't arrive fast enough. The touring grind was brutal, and Huey turned to drugs to relax his nerves, to keep going, to numb the weight of expectations.
Oh, how can you say?
Cocaine and heroin became constant shadows. His voice remained thunder, but his body began to fail him. Still, he sang with desperation, like every show might be his last. And one of them was. In October 1970, James Ramey died of a drug-related heart attack in a Chicago hotel room. He was just 26, a future funk icon gone before his debut album even released.
Time to get on up! Time to get on up!
Curtis Mayfield finished producing the record posthumously, and it became a cult classic, sampled by hip-hop giants like A Tribe Called Quest, Ice Cube, and Ghostface Killah. Yet, Baby Huey's name is still barely whispered outside certain circles. If this story felt like a spark gone out too soon, the next one is about a woman whose voice lifted others to fame, while her own name was pushed into silence. Number 12, Minnie Riperton, the whistle note angel who ran out of time.
I did have aspirations to be an opera singer. Maybe one day I will be. I'm young.
Minnie Riperton didn't just sing, she floated. Born on Chicago's South Side, she came up through the legendary Chess Records training program, learning to control her breath and tone like a precision instrument.
We will live each day in the springtime, 'cause love.
By the early 1970s, she had crafted a vocal identity unlike anything the music world had heard. That ethereal, glass-fragile whistle register, notes so high they sounded like starlight humming. Her breakout hit, Lovin' You, 1974, wasn't just a song, it was sunlight turned to sound. Warm, playful, intimate. You can hear her smiling while she sings it. The track became a worldwide sensation, placing Minnie at the center of 1970s soul pop. But just as her star began to rise, hers became a story of devastating fragility. At only 28, Minnie was diagnosed with breast cancer, a diagnosis whispered about quietly then, discussed even less for Black women. She continued recording, performing, and advocating for early detection, wearing sleeveless gowns on stage to reveal the surgical scar no one talked about. By 1979, the illness had spread. She passed at 31, leaving behind her husband, producer Richard Rudolph, and her young daughter, future actress Maya Rudolph, who would later say her mother's voice still feels like a hug I can't touch. Minnie's music still floats through grocery store aisles, wedding halls, summer afternoons with windows open. But too few speak her name with the reverence it deserves. If Minnie was the voice of softness and innocence, our next entry shows how even fire, when left unattended, can burn itself out. Number 11, Syl Johnson, the soul man, overshadowed by his own age.
I ain't going through no more changes to keep you, girl.
Echo, Syl Johnson came up through the blues joints of Mississippi and Chicago, the kind of places where the walls sweat and the guitars talk back. In the late 1960s and into the early 70s, he carved out a niche with his raw, aching voice.
When the wind blows, it's cool with me. Wait a minute.
Half pleading, half testifying, and that unmistakable smoky guitar tone. Songs like Different Strokes and Is It Because I'm Black weren't just records. They were statements, bare and unpolished, calling out injustice and heartbreak in the same breath. But Syl's story took a twist that few saw coming. His music, especially those tightly wound groove breaks, became one of the most sampled catalogs in hip-hop history.
Fall into that category and fit that description, I got a song for you.
Public Enemy, Wu-Tang Clan, Kanye West. His sounds are everywhere. Yet for decades, his name was rarely mentioned, his credit rarely shown, his royalty checks painfully small. Imagine watching your sound shape entire eras while being left out of the celebration. Syl spent years fighting in court, trying to reclaim both money and recognition. But legal systems move slow and exhaustion moves faster. While he eventually won some battles, the world only partially caught up to how important he really was. His music still feels like nighttime arguments, streetlights on rain-glossed pavement, a cigarette burning low. And his legacy whispers a question that hits deep. What does it mean to create something timeless and still not be seen? If Syl's story was one of echoes without acknowledgement, the next artist shows how sometimes the stage lights themselves can become too heavy to bear. Number 10. Terry Kath of Chicago.
Terry played with the gun and he just went like that, air, Don, boom, boom.
The guitar soul that got erased behind a band's fame. Now, Chicago wasn't strictly an R&B group, but in the early 70s, their sound pulsed with soul, horns, groove, and raw emotional grit. And at the heart of that sound was Terry Kath, a guitarist and singer whose tone could cree, scream, whisper, and testify all in one breath. Jimi Hendrix once heard him play and said, "That guy is better than me." And he meant it. Terry's voice on tracks like Hope for Love and his searing solos on the band's early albums were unlike anything else on radio. His playing had a spiritual weight, like gospel filtered through fuzz pedals and cigarette smoke, but the world barely knew his name. As Chicago grew slicker, more commercial, the spotlight shifted away from him. Fame brought pressure. Pressure brought heavy drinking. Friends tried to talk to him. His bandmates begged him to slow down. But Terry joked through the darkness, using laughter as a shield. Then, in January 1978, during a late-night hangout, Terry was handling a gun he believed was unloaded. He pulled the trigger. One accidental moment, and music lost one of its purest souls. He was just 31. Today, the band still headlines arenas, but for many who know, there's always a missing warmth, a spiritual heartbeat that left too soon. If Terry's tragedy was a life dulled by the machine of fame, the next story is about brilliance that shined in one city, and the world never got to see it spread. Number 9. Eddie Kendricks, The Temptations and solo legend. The silken falsetto that floated above the clouds until life weighted him down. Eddie Kendricks was the kind of singer who didn't need power to command a room. He just floated above it. As a founding member of The Temptations, his feather-light falsetto defined classics like Just My Imagination, The Way You Do the Things You Do, and Get Ready. That voice felt like warm wind on summer sidewalks, like young love, like hope itself. But when Eddie stepped away from The Temptations in the early 70s to pursue a solo career, the industry wasn't ready to let him grow. He scored hits, Keep on Truckin' and Boogie Down, but record label politics, shifting musical trends, and internal rivalries dimmed his spotlight. He lived with constant frustration. the sense that his contributions were understated even as his sound shaped an era. Then came failing health. Eddie battled lung cancer, directly tied to decades of smoking, something he once said calmed his nerves before performing. By the early 90s, his voice, once airy, glowing, eternal, began to fade. He passed away in 1992 at just 52 years old. When fans hear his songs now, they often don't know his name, only that voice. It's a reminder that even the gentlest sound can leave the longest echo. If that one lingered in your heart, the next story shows how even a bright and joyful fire can be swallowed whole by the weight of the world. Number 8, Betty Davis. The funk queen who was too bold for her time. Before most artists even imagined what funk could be, Betty Davis was already living inside its future. Fierce, unapologetic, and electrifying, she wrote her own songs, produced her own sessions, and turned every stage into a wildfire of sweat, glitter, and raw feminine power. Her voice didn't just sing, it growled from somewhere primal, challenging everyone in the room to keep up. A former fashion model and one-time wife of Miles Davis, she revolutionized his sound, introducing him to Kendricks, Sly Stone, and the psychedelic scene that sparked Bitches Brew. But when she stepped out to create her own music, the labels didn't know what to do with her. She was too sexual, too loud, too free, too black for the safe image the industry wanted to sell. Radio wouldn't play her, promoters refused to book her, magazines wouldn't print her face, and while male rock artists strutted half-naked with praise, Betty was punished for doing the same. The constant uphill battle burned her out. By the late 1970s, she withdrew from music completely, retreating to a quiet life in Pittsburgh, rarely granting interviews, living almost like a ghost while her influence exploded without her. Decades later, artists like Erykah Badu, Janelle Monáe, Prince, Beyoncé, and countless funk and neo-soul stars would pull from her blueprint, many not even knowing her name. Her story is not of death, but of erasure. A legacy swallowed, then slowly rediscovered by listeners who finally caught up. If Betty's tragedy was being too bold for her time, the next artist faced a storm he couldn't silence, even with one of the most powerful voices of the decade. Number 7, Al Green's tragic turning point. The soul, reverend born from heartbreak and flames. Al Green was one of the brightest lights of 1970s soul. Silky voice, crisp falsetto, songs that felt like satin sheets in Sunday morning sunlight. Let's stay together. Tired of being alone. Love and happiness. He wasn't just singing love, he was defining it. His music sounded like a world where romance was soft, warm, and everlasting. But Al's story twisted hard in 1974. After years of turbulent relationships and a career moving at a pace no human could spiritually maintain, Al became tangled in emotional chaos with a woman named Mary Woodson. One night, without warning, she poured boiling hot grits over him while he was bathing, severely burning his back and chest.
So if you're always searching, trying to find the bottom line.
Moments later, she took her own life in his home. The tragedy shattered him. Al tried to continue performing, but the music felt different now, haunted. The glamour of love songs suddenly tasted bitter. Within a year, he left mainstream soul to become a pastor, pouring his voice into gospel instead of the charts. His new music was powerful, But the world had lost the Al Green who once sang romance like it was a living, breathing thing. The burns healed.
There's no one that's better. You really need a friend.
But something inside him never did. His story reminds us, even the voices that soothe our pain may be singing through their own. If these stories are stirring memories, emotions, and thoughts, give this video a thumbs up. It helps more soul lovers find their way back to this music, and it keeps these artists' names alive. And stay with me. We still have 6 heartbreaking stories to go, and they only get more powerful from here. Number 6, Darondo.
Get down with it.
The soul phantom who vanished into the night. If you were living in the Bay Area in the early 1970s, you might have caught a glimpse of a man stepping out of a cream-colored Rolls Royce, rings on every finger, fur coat draped just so. Darondo.
Talking about the children, they can't help themselves. I'm talking about the people.
His voice was velvet wrapped around heartbreak, and his signature track, Didn't I?, sounded like someone confessing love and regret in the same trembling breath. It was the kind of song that made the room go still. But fame didn't follow the music the way it should have. Darondo's life outside the studio was chaotic. Rumors swirled of gambling, hustling, and business dealings that blurred the line between legal and survival. Some say he ran with the wrong crowds. Others say he was simply a man trying to live large in a system that didn't want him climbing that high.
Yeah, you better let my people go.
What's certain is this: one day, Darondo disappeared. No dramatic headline, no final concert, no farewell interview. He just left. For decades, people whispered stories. He moved to Europe. He drove limousines. He worked as a physical therapist. He found religion. He lost everything. He gained peace. No one really knew for sure. Then, like a ghost returning,
Yeah.
his song was rediscovered in the 2000s and sampled by artists who recognized that kind of soul can't stay buried. But Darondo himself remained soft-spoken, gentle, reflective. Nothing like his flashy legend. His tragedy wasn't death. It was silence. A voice that could have been iconic. Barely heard in its own time. If this story left you wondering how many legends slip away unnoticed, the next one is about a singer whose voice was everywhere, but whose name was pushed into the shadows of someone else's spotlight. Number 5 is Florence Ballard, The Supremes. The voice Motown silenced. Florence Ballard was there at the beginning, before the sequins, before the headlines, before the Supremes became the polished crown jewel of Motown. In those early days, Flo was the soul of the group. Her voice was full-bodied, rich, warm, closer to gospel than pop. She started the group. She named the group. She was its heart. But the music industry is rarely kind to the ones who don't fit its perfect image. As Diana Ross's star rose, Motown's focus shifted. Flo's leads were reduced, her spotlight dimmed. And then, she was pushed out completely in 1967, replaced quietly, almost without acknowledgement. She received a $139,000 settlement and no royalties. Imagine watching the group you built, your sisters, your dream, become world icons without you. Depression followed, poverty followed.
It's not enough to show I care.
Her voice, once bold enough to shake rafters, was now hushed by survival. By the early 70s, Flo tried to restart her career, recording new tracks with hope still flickering in her chest. But the industry had moved on, and Motown wasn't letting that door unlock again. On February 22nd, 1976, Florence Ballard died of heart failure at just 32 years old.
You all the time, oh, hold me.
At her funeral, Mary Wilson wept. Diana Ross arrived late and left early. Yet, here's the truth Motown never got to rewrite. There would be no Supremes without Florence Ballard. Her voice is still in the DNA of every harmony that group ever sang. If Florence's tragedy was erasure from the spotlight, our next story is about an artist who fought fame itself as it threatened to unravel everything inside him. Number 4, Sly Stone. The visionary who lost himself in the music he created. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Sly Stone was the future. He didn't just make music, he engineered a whole new world of sound. Sly and the Family Stone blended funk, soul, rock, gospel, psychedelia, and unity. The band was interracial, gender-integrated, explosive with joy and imagination. Songs like Everyday People, If You Want Me to Stay, and Family Affair weren't just hits. They were revolutions set to rhythm. But genius has a weight. By the height of his fame, Sly was dealing with paranoia, pressure, and addiction. Cocaine becoming the anchor that dragged him down while he tried to keep creating at impossible speed. Record executives wanted radio hits. Fans wanted anthems. America wanted him to stay smiling, seeking about unity, even as the world kept fracturing around him. The more he tried to hold on, the more everything unraveled. Bandmates left, sessions collapsed, tours were canceled mid-flight. By the end of the 70s, Sly Stone, the man who once stood center stage commanding stadiums, began to disappear from public view altogether. And then came the hardest image of all, Sly Stone living in a van. Not a myth, not a metaphor, a reality. A pioneer who changed the very shape of popular music, reduced to survival mode. But here's the thing, even broken, Sly is still monumental. Artists from Prince to D'Angelo, Anderson, Pac to Kendrick Lamar are built on his blueprint. And every time you hear a bass line that struts, every time you hear a song calling for love and chaos, you're hearing Sly. His tragedy isn't just the fall, it's how easily the world forgets who built the ground it stands on. If Sly's story was about losing control while trying to carry the weight of culture, the next one is about an artist whose triumph never had the chance to bloom at all. Number 3, Phyllis Hyman.
Believed in you. I thought you could do no wrong.
The voice that loved too deep for this world. Phyllis Hyman had a voice like velvet dipped in honey and heartbreak. When she stepped on stage, tall, elegant, regal, she didn't just sing a song, she lived inside it. Tracks like Living All Alone, You Know How to Love Me, and her soul-stilling cover of Betcha by Golly Wow carried the weight of every love she ever lost, every hope she ever held, every wound she never fully healed.
I can't hold you like I want to.
In the late 1970s and early 1980s, she seemed destined to be one of the greats. Broadway contracts, Grammy buzz, world-class musicians singing her praises. But the industry didn't know what to do with a black woman who was bold, assertive, and elegant without apology. Labels tried to reshape her. Radio chased younger, lighter voices.
The haunting melody came inside.
And while audiences adored her, the machine kept pushing her to the margins. Behind the stage lights, Phyllis battled deep depression, a loneliness she spoke about openly, long before mental health was something the world acknowledged without shame. She loved intensely. She hurt intensely. She felt everything in a world that rewards numbness. On June 30th, 1995, just hours before a scheduled performance at the Apollo Theater, Phyllis Hyman died by suicide.
You're the real that I feel, never go away.
She was 45. Her final note in her final message read, "I'm tired. I'm tired. Those of you that I love know who you are." But here's the thing. Her voice never left us. Every time her music plays, it feels like someone sitting beside you on a quiet night saying, "I understand." If Phyllis's story was a heart that felt too deeply, the next artist shows us what happens when the world pushes someone into the spotlight before they ever have a chance to grow into themselves. Number 2, Sam Dees.
I claim the night. I claim the night for us.
The genius songwriter who watched his words make other people famous. If you've ever heard a soul song that made your chest tighten, your throat warm, and your memory flicker with something you can't even name, there's a good chance Sam Dees wrote it. Born in Birmingham, Alabama, M had a voice smooth as late-night radio and lyrics that read like poetry someone tucked into a lover's coat pocket.
The evening's mood alright.
His 1975 album, The Show Must Go On, should have been a landmark, rich, emotional, timeless. But the label didn't promote it. Radio barely touched it. And the world never heard what could have been one of the defining soul albums of the decade. So Sam did what survivors do. He adapted. He wrote hits for other people. Gladys Knight, Whitney Houston, Lolita Holloway, George Benson, Aretha Franklin. You might know the songs, but chances are you don't know his name.
Just wait until I get you home and invite the neighbors.
He wrote heartbreaks that filled stadiums. He wrote love songs that were sung at weddings across generations. He wrote lyrics that healed others, while he faded further into the background. The tragedy here isn't scandal. It isn't addiction. It isn't early death. It's absence. A giant whose face was never given to his voice. Sam Dees lived to see the world realize, slowly, quietly, that he was one of the greatest songwriters soul music ever produced. But recognition came like a whisper, not the spotlight. And now, we've gone through heartbreak, silence, brilliance, and loss. But nothing prepares the heart for the story sitting at number 1. Number 1, Marvin Gaye.
Get up, get up, get up, get up. Let's make love tonight.
The angel who couldn't save himself, Marvin Gaye's voice was like a prayer whispered into the dark. Gentle, aching, searching. Through the 1960s and early 70s, he became the heartbeat of Motown. From the tender elegance of Ain't No Mountain High Enough to the raw, pleading spirituality of What's Going On.
What's going on? What's going on?
Marvin didn't just sing about love, he sang about humanity. War, faith, addiction, loneliness, hope. He put the world's pain into melody and asked us to listen. But behind those songs was a man in constant conflict. Marvin grew up under the heavy shadow of a strict and violent father, a preacher whose approval he could never earn. Fame didn't free him, it only amplified the noise in his soul. He battled depression, heartbreak, and cocaine addiction, disappearing at times into silence, then returning with a voice even more weathered and beautiful. By 1984, Marvin had moved back into his parents' home, fragile, exhausted, and searching for peace in the place where he had first learned fear. On April 1st, during a heated argument, his father shot and killed him, the person who had once taught him to sing. Marvin Gaye left this world at 44 years old. But listen, his voice didn't leave. It hums in the quiet. It floats through city windows at dusk. It is the soundtrack of love and longing that the world will never forget. Marvin's tragedy isn't that he was lost. It's that he was too human in a world that demands perfection from its angels. We've We've traveled through voices that soared, broke, healed, and disappeared. Some were taken too soon. Some were never seen clearly while they lived, but every one of them left something behind. A note, a warmth, a memory, a lesson. If these stories moved you, subscribe to keep the soul alive. There are so many more artists whose names deserve to be spoken again. And when you're ready, click the end screen to roll straight into our next journey. 15 most hated R&B bands of the 1970s. Let's keep the music playing. Let's keep the memories living. And most of all, let's remember them.